Hi everyone, Mike Foster here, and welcome back to the next episode of Depression Quest. We left off the last episode having a meeting with our brother, and we were at the point of deciding whether we should lie to him that we had a routine cleaning at the dentist, or whether we should tell him the truth that we were grinding our teeth, but then not talk about the stress. Given the fact that our brother seems to be in quite a, normal, blasé attitude at the moment, beeping the horn to give us a shock, did we get drilled full of holes, all that. He's expecting quite a light-hearted conversation, which makes this quite tough. I think we're just going to say it's a routine cleaning, because I have a feeling if we talk about the tooth grinding problem, then the brother will want to go further into detail. And at this point in time, having just come out of the dentist, he's probably aches and pains. He's already spoke to Amanda about everything that's going on. I don't think our protagonist would want to go into all that again at this point. So for the moment, we'll tell him it was a routine cleaning. Our voice trails off as you stare out the passenger's side window, head resting on our hand. There's a brief silence and you can feel your brother's eyes on you. You hear him take a breath, preparing to say something, then hesitate. Though you may not be exceptionally close anymore, you know that he could tell you're holding something back. Oh, interesting. You brace yourself for probing questions you really don't have the energy to answer. Hey, why don't we get something fancy for dinner? My treat. Okay? You feel like a little kid again, being looked after by your big brother. That is his job, to be fair. My big brother still looks after me, bless him. A part of you prickles up and feels pathetic for this. Don't do that. But the larger part of you that is stressed out, exhausted, and grateful for the familiar comfort of family. Good. You don't have to feel pathetic for wanting to be around family. Malcolm never presses you further that night and takes your mind off of things for a while. But we are still feeling very depressed, spending a lot of time sleeping, and we have very little energy or motivation. It's now a dry Sunday morning, so we've skipped forward again. You grab your morning coffee and sit down at your desk to check your email. A new message pops up in your inbox almost as soon as you do. It's from Amanda. Yes, I'm hoping this is about the doctor. And you remember your meeting in the cafe and awkwardly bringing up your feelings to her. Hey buddy, sorry it's been a few weeks. I meant to get this to you sooner, but it took a while for me to get hold of my folks back home. Dad told me to say hi, by the way. Oh, Amanda's great. Anyway, I remembered what we talked about last time I saw you, and I hope you aren't insulted, but I asked my mum for the number for her therapist. Don't worry, I didn't tell her who it was for. I think she's worried about me now, though. Ha ha. Bless her, Amanda's great. Anyway, the number is... It's a really good office, you should look into it. Talking to someone never hurts. And Amanda's right, talking to somebody really doesn't hurt. I've mentioned it before, but, if you're struggling, self-refer yourself via the NHS, go and see a specialist, go and see a counsellor, and they will, help you, absolutely. If you're worried about money, don't be. They're one of the few that has a really good sliding scale fee system and won't charge you what you can afford. Just to clarify, I'm assuming this game is made in a place that has a private healthcare system. If you're from the UK, you can access these services for free. So please, don't hesitate to do that. I hope you're feeling better. It was really nice to see you again, A. It's still early enough that you could call and make an appointment today. What do you do? Now, this is interesting for me, and I do apologise because I'm going to go slightly away from the story here. But before I ever went to see a counsellor, it was a few years ago now, but before I did, I had the telephone number for about a month, and it took me that long to build up the courage to actually ring the number. And there might be people out there watching this going, what's so hard about ringing a phone number? Yeah, what is hard about ringing a phone number? The thing is, once you make that call, things start to get better for you, but it's scary. And the idea of making that call and being scared isn't an easy thing to do. And yeah, once I'd made the call, I felt great. But I won't deny people the fact that it is really difficult to do that. So let's see if our protagonist can do better than me and take less than a month to make the phone call. So what do? We don't call the therapist's number. We don't try our luck and call the number, even though the mere thought of talking to somebody makes us anxious. We can either sleep on it and see how we're feeling in the morning, or close the email without thinking more of it. This has been embarrassing enough already. I understand both 3 and 4. There are times in my life where I've been struggling with depression or anxiety where I just don't want to talk about it. I don't want to be around it. I feel like I've had too much of it. For those of you who know, maybe follow me on Facebook, link in description below, by the way, and, follow me on other things, Instagram, Twitter. You may know that I'm a mental health first aider. I may have mentioned it on one of these videos even. And that involves a lot of talking to other people about their mental health. And there are days where I'll come home from work, I've done my day job, I may have done a couple of sessions of mental health first aid with people, and I may have been struggling myself on that day with my own mental health. And, if somebody came to me at 8 o'clock that night and said, oh, ring this number, this will be really good for you, I'd be like, nah, sorry, too much today, too much. And, that's okay at times, but what isn't okay is saying that over and over and over again and just postponing the fact that you do need to call eventually. So I'm going to say sleep on it, see how we're feeling in the morning. We're not keen on the idea, but we don't want to disappoint Amanda. Good. She's been a great friend. She knows you need help. You know you need help. So yeah, sleep on it. The thought of picking up the phone and calling someone about this right now is overwhelming. Sure, you're having a hard time lately and have motivation issues, but are you really in need of therapy? Yes, you are, because as it states down here, you are very depressed. You spend a large amount of time sleeping, not liking yourself, and you've got very little energy or motivation. Trying to think about all of these things at once makes it feel like a very big deal, and you decide to take your time to think on it. The rest of the day passes quickly, and that night you have a hard time trying to sleep because your brain is too busy thinking about all of these things, and it's hard to get any rest that night. The next morning you check your email again with blurry eyes. Amanda's email is still there, seemingly waiting for you. You are no more decided than you were yesterday. What now? Option 1. Just call it already, it can't hurt to check it out. Option 2. Call after wrestling with it for a few minutes longer. Option 3. Don't call, this is way too much for you to be able to deal with right now. Okay, so let's look at option 2 and 3. 3 first. If we don't call, because it's too much for us to be able to deal with, then we are continuing the cycle of negativity. We're continuing to bury our head in the sand and say, we can get through this without any help. We can't get through this without help. We've already decided we're completely scared that we are pulling ourselves away from our girlfriend, that we are holding her back. We don't like our job. The project we started because we didn't like our job, we can't be bothered to do anymore. If we pick option 3 here, all of that is going to continue and perhaps get worse. Option 2 is what I did after a month. I called after wrestling with it. So I'm going to go option 2. You read through Amanda's email 2 or 3 times, then sit there and stare at the computer for a while. While the memory of that uncomfortable conversation makes you feel more embarrassed and conscious, part of you is also encouraged by the fact that she cared enough to get back to you at all. Exactly. Sitting in front of the computer, you start to question things like whether or not Amanda sent you this number out of pity, or perhaps some sense of obligation after having listened to you. You question the motives and validity of her concern, and whether or not you think seeing a therapist would even be helpful. Yet almost unconsciously, you reach for your phone, and before you realize what you're doing, you're listening to the therapist's line ring. Before you can bring yourself to hang up, you're listening to the slightly clinical but not unpleasant voice of the receptionist asking how she can help you. Well done. Well done for taking that step and making that call. And for any of you out there that have been in this position where you really know you need to make the call but you're struggling, I hope reading this kind of tells you that other people go through the same process that you've gone through and that it's okay. It's not crazy. It's normal to feel this way. So we are saying, I'd like to make an appointment with the doctor, you managed to stammer out. The conversation is quick and not nearly as unpleasant as you were fearing, and quicker than you can say Freudian slip, you've scheduled an appointment. Great! Well done! Quicker than you realize, appointment day rolls round. What do? Do we go to the therapist's office? Apparently crossed out. Head to the therapist's office even though you're totally unsure of what to expect? Yep, that's going to be my option. Sit in the car terrified and try and talk yourself into or out of going? Or do you, just the thought of going to the appointment ties your stomach in knots, you crawl back into bed? Now, obviously, we all know the best option here is option 2. But, again, I love the fact that Zoe Quinn, Patrick Lindsay and Isaac Shankler have made this game. All those other options there are things that people with depression would be considering, would be going through at that point. And the fact that you out there can see them, educates you in how people with depression feel. Everybody's depression is different, but most people who have depression, I imagine, would feel one of option 2, 3, or 4 at this point in time. But of course, we're going to go for option 2. I'm actually quite excited that we're going to see a therapist. You have your first session with your new therapist, Dr. Susan Melville. A tall woman in her mid-40s with a disarming demeanour and patient eyes with the start of the slightest small lines. She makes you feel comfortable really easily, which is a pleasant surprise after all your anxiety over the appointment. Great. As you leave, you make a second appointment. You're still sceptical about all of this, but figure you might as well see where it goes. The hardest part, it seems, was taking the first step. You're still not sure if and how you're going to tell your family or your partner, but you figure you'll deal with that when the time comes. Either way, you feel relieved that you managed to see this through instead of being paralyzed with worry over it. Even if nothing comes of this, you did something you said you would instead of flaking out or running away. Wow. Before I even read the next bit, that feels like he's in so much of a better place. Because, he's gone through with it. He knew he needed to do it. He's gone through with it. And now he feels so much better that he's gone through with it. You're emotionally exhausted when you get home and collapse into bed. You sleep better that night than you have in a week. And you're not sure if it is because you were so tired when you got home or if it's because of the therapist. I think we'll leave that episode here. I'm so pleased that we're ending on a positive note. I'm well aware that this experience is, it's quite negative and understandably so. Depression isn't a good thing. But it is great that we're ending this on a positive note. We've been to see a therapist. He feels good about it. He's made another appointment. And I'll put a link to my video in the corner on mental health first aid. I know I've touched on it in this video at times, but I think I talk about in there, how important it is to see professional people, professional medically trained people when you have depression. So if you want to watch that, check that out. As always, if you've enjoyed this, drop a like on it. Please subscribe, because I'm really hopeful about the next video now and where we are going from this point. That being said, stay safe everyone. Wishing you good health and well-being. See you next time.